I do.
Do.
All right. And two of you are neighbors. Mr. Kirby, are you immediate neighbors or just same?
We're not immediate neighbors. We're not immediate neighbors. Maybe 3 or 4 houses apart on the opposite side of the road. We live on a dead-end street, a one-road neighborhood.
All right. And you are currently on the HOA board, and Mr. Bert used to be on the HOA board. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And I've read what's been filed, but Mr. Kirby, in your own words, tell me why you believe you need a protection order in this case.
I believe that Mr. Bert will continue to harass me. He's made several threats on more than one occasion. So I just believe it's going to continue. In fact, there was another incident that was more recent of his harassment of me. So it continued to prove that this type of behavior towards me is just going to continue unless I get a protection order.
And what do you think started this, in your opinion?
In my opinion, what started it was when Mr. Bert approached me and was upset that my boat was parked in our neighborhood, and he was making statements about how long it had been parked there, and I disagreed with him because it hadn't been parked there as long as he was saying that it was. And then he just snapped and started cussing and yelling at me because I didn't agree with him, that I disagreed and told him that, my boat's been parked here for this amount of time, and then he just snapped and started yelling and cussing at me and threatening me.
All right.
That's what precipitated it back in early June.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Mr. Bert, go ahead.
Yes, Your Honor. What would you like to know?
Just, a summary of your side of the story here.
Yeah, Mr. Kirby is on the HOA, and he doesn't act like it. But I was in the retention pond cleaning out, just cleaning out cans that were there, and I had asked his neighbor about that, and she mentioned that she thought it was his kids that had thrown the cans there. He had come back. He was just arriving back. I do want to make note that his boat was unhitched. He tends to leave his boat unhitched in the neighborhood. And it escalated at that point. He said nobody tells him what to do, yada, yada, yada. And that was the first incident. I then asked for his removal from the HOA immediately after that happened. And one thing I do want to make note is after that first confrontation, myself and another HOA member started receiving text messages from Mr. Kirby, basically wanting to continue this when his children weren't there. And I could choose if I wanted to, however I wanted to continue this. But those text messages continued for about an hour or two, with the end of it being, you make the call when and where you want this to take place, basically. And I gave you copies of those. At that point, I was out blowing the sidewalk and street like I do to take care of my portion. And he did drive by. I motioned for him, and this is on the 23rd, that I motioned for him to roll his window down. And I basically asked him, hey, when are you going to follow up on this? And at that point, Mr. Kirby said, okay, you want to go? I'll go. He went up the street, turned around, came back, went into his garage, which I had no idea what he was doing at that point. And then about 5 minutes later, proceeded to come out and stand in a fighting position while he was stretching. And then basically, saying, okay, let's go. At that point, there were words exchanged up and down the street. I then decided that I was going to walk down there since he wouldn't come up, and the whole thing escalated with him basically baiting me to hit him because I know what he wants to do. And neighbors came out. I was separated. The police were called. I was not cited or arrested for anything. Since then, I was served by his roommate, and I have not engaged, talked, looked at him, or done anything to continue this. I don't want to have anything to do with the gentleman from this point forward. I will make note that I was walking my dog and he's videotaping me from his car. So I feel this is a two-way street, Your Honor, and I really respectfully ask that this petition be denied.
All right. So I see in your statement here that you said at one point you called him a pussy and laughed in his face, knowing that that was going to agitate him.
Sure. I mean, yes, I did. I do not deny that.
Okay. And on the other side, Mr. Kirby, your thoughts about what Mr. Bert just said about you sending texts saying, let's finish this thing. Tell me about that.
Yes, that was in regards to the incident that happened in early June. He was calling me lots of names and calling me out and wanting to fight me. And I told him that I'm not going to do this. My kids were here. We were unloading our truck. My arms were full of stuff. I said, I'm not going to do this with you right now. He wanted to fight me. And I said, I'm not going to do it right now. I'm not going to do this in front of my kids. And he continued to insult me and berate me in front of my kids. And I said, my kids will be gone on Wednesday. We can finish this on Wednesday. Yeah, I did say that. And it took some neighbors to come and pull him away out of my driveway, away from me. And I did submit the video that my son began to take of the incident because my son and my daughter were scared. The other HOA board member also joined in and yelling and cussing at me with Mr. Bert. And so, yeah, I did send him a text message. We exchanged text messages after that, and I told them that actually Wednesday, I'm not available, but if you want to prove whatever you need to prove on Friday, I'll be around. And then nothing happened for like a month and a half. And so I'm just like, okay, it's over. And then the morning of I can't remember exactly what the date was, but when he was blowing the leaves in the road, and he motioned for me to roll down the window, I thought it was something, I didn't know what it was. Maybe something to do with the landscaping. I figured it was just over because a month and a half had passed. And again, he calls me a pussy and says, where were you? I thought you were going to come over and we were going to finish this. And I was like, all right, we'll finish this right now. And yeah, that happened. And I went and stood where I was standing before, and he walked down, and same thing. I said, okay, well, I'm not going to throw a punch at you. And if you want to prove that I'm a pussy, then throw a punch. And he just began yelling and cussing and calling names, and the neighbors came out, and one of the neighbors called the police, and he's like, yeah, fine, call the police. So he went back into his house. The police came, took my statement, and the Thurston County deputies, they're the ones that recommended that I file this petition along with my neighbor, he's formerly on the HOA board. They all recommended that I file this. They said that there's no indication that he's going to stop doing this. And so I said, okay, yeah, I guess I better do this because, I gave an opportunity, and I just need this to be over with. So that's why I went forward and filed it. And then I would like to make a statement about a more recent incident of harassment, which contradicts what Mr. Bert just said, that on August 3rd, about 8:15, he mentioned that he was walking his dogs. And I have to when I leave the neighborhood, I have to drive past his house every time. I have to leave and come back in. I was taking my daughter to her volleyball camp around 8:15 in the morning, and as we're driving by, I look over and I see that he is walking his dogs, and he makes a motion towards me and my daughter, my 11-year-old daughter, of masturbating, and flips me off as we're driving by. And my daughter goes, "That's Jeff. He's weird." And I said, "Yeah, I just don't worry about him. He's obviously, I don't remember exactly what I said, but I tried to comfort her." And then it was the next day, the next morning on the 4th, when he was served the paperwork.
All right.
So again, I believe it will continue. When I come home, it's like, okay, is he going to be out on the road again? If I bring my boat over for a day or two, is he going to harass me again for having my boat there?
Okay. Thank you. And Mr. Bert, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, his account of what happened when I was walking my dog is not correct. He was filming me as he drove by. I could see it, and I kind of motioned like, go on. There was no masturbation. There was no flipping off. I would also like to note again, this gentleman is on the HOA board. There's covenants that state you can't have a boat or a trailer or anything in here, yet he constantly breaks this. And he acts as if none of the rules around here apply to himself. And I may be the only one to ever say something to him, but he goes unchecked in this neighborhood. And I don't want to have a thing to do with this guy. I have no intention of interacting with him again. And other than going to the mailbox, which is located directly in front of his house, I don't even go down there. I used to mow the entire strip of the HOA property because our HOA is a non-functioning HOA and doesn't do anything to keep the neighborhood, up to snuff. And so I took it upon myself to mow this huge strip. I'm not even doing that anymore, Your Honor. It's too close to his house. I want nothing to do with this gentleman. I have where my house sits, it's bordered by 4 different HOA properties. And so I would ask that he not come near my house in any way of the HOA. Again, I feel that this is two-sided. I feel Mr. Kirby plays a huge role, especially with the continuation after the first one of him sending email or text messages to me. It just at that point, and so yes, when he drove by, I wanted to know what's the follow-up here. Are you gonna back up your threats, or are you gonna, what are you gonna do? And for him to turn around and then go back to his house and stand out front in a fighting pose, what does that tell you? Again, I respectfully ask the court to deny this petition.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Bert. I'll make a general comment first. It's sometimes we trying to be diplomatic here. You two guys are exhibiting too much testosterone, I would say, both of you. Guys your age, and by the way, I'm significantly older than both of you. Guys your age are just going to hurt yourself if you try to hurt somebody else. So, let's lay off the, let's get it on sort of thing. Teenagers do that, and that's where it should end when, as people mature and understand that that's not the way to resolve things. Also, as a former head of an HOA, I understand the tensions that exist, and is the organization working well or not working well? And I get, that it's all dependent on the people involved. But it exists there to deal with general neighborhood issues such as a boat being there too long, if that's the case. Mr. Bert, take your issues with the boat to the HOA. I heard you say you don't think it's going to do anything because you don't think it's a functional organization, but that's the organization that's set up to hear that type of inquiry. Clearly, that's not going to work with a direct confrontation with Mr. Bert. That's been made very clear. So that's the way you need to handle that. All right, looking at this, this is, I'm going to enter the protection order, and Mr. Bert, you'd have no contact with Mr. Kirby or his children, not harm them, and not go within 10 feet of Mr. Kirby, his children, or his vehicle and residence. And Mr. Kirby, this order will be in effect for 1 year from today's date. If you want it renewed, you'll have to come back to court and ask for it to be renewed. All right, the matter had previously been served on Mr. Bert, so he doesn't require further service. And honestly, I hope the two of you sort of say, yeah, that was kind of silly, individually to each other, to yourselves rather. It's, to me, it's a little embarrassing as a guy that we have other guys, sort of doing the bull moose thing. That's left for another generation. All right. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Your Honor.
Yes.
How do I deal with Mr. Kirby being on the HOA and yet my property is surrounded by 4 different HOA lots? One specifically is right next to my driveway, and Mr. Kirby has decided to take down a part of my fence and the HOA fence so they can access another part of the HOA property. He has told me in the past he wants to have access right next to my driveway into that. My wife, we don't want him anywhere near our house. And I feel that I have that right. He can walk around to access that property. There's another access point. I do not want Mr. Kirby near my house.
Okay. What I'll tell you is, one, I'm not going to get into the activities of the HOA. That's not part of this statutory proceeding. Number 2, Mr. Kirby's heard what you've said. Mr. Kirby's has a protection order on your behaviors towards him. Mr. Kirby, you've heard what Mr. Bert has said. I hope you're respectful of that within the context of your obligations to the HOA. Maybe somebody else from the HOA can do it so it doesn't aggravate Mr. Bert. But if there are issues, Mr. Bert, you're going to have to deal with it through the HOA. You may have to hire an attorney, those sorts of things. But that's how it's handled.
Thank you. I just wanted to make note of that. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you both.
Thank you.